Her small hands held the leashes tightly, even though they trembled a little. Every afternoon, she walked the same two dogs down the same quiet street, her head lowered, her steps slow. The neighbors watched her from behind curtains and front porches, whispering, guessing, assuming. To them, she was just a lonely girl with dogs. But they never noticed the look in her eyes, the kind that comes from carrying a story too heavy for someone her age. And soon, the truth behind those walks would change everything they thought they knew. Before we begin, hit subscribe. It's appreciated. Her name was Amina. She was only 13, quiet and gentle, the kind of girl who spoke more with her eyes than with words. She lived with her father in a small house at the end of the street. They had moved there not long ago, and most people still called them the new family or whispered the foreign ones. No one tried to know more. Every afternoon, right after school, Amina would walk two dogs, Max, a fluffy golden one, and Shadow, a black one with calm eyes. The neighbors always noticed her. Some smiled kindly, but many just stared. They wondered why a young girl walked dogs that looked expensive. Some thought her family must be taking advantage of something. Others said maybe her father worked for someone wealthy. No one asked. They only talked. Amina's house always seemed quiet, almost too quiet. Her father left early each morning and came home late. People assumed things about him too. They said he kept to himself too much, that he acted different, that he didn't try to fit in. They did not know his story. They did not know he worked two jobs. They did not know he was tired in a way that sits deep in the bones. Amina liked walking the dogs because it was the only time she could breathe. The air felt softer outside. The sunlight helped her forget the heavy feeling sitting inside her chest. The dogs understood her in a way people didn't. They walked beside her like they knew she carried something she could not say out loud. But the neighbors only saw what was on the surface. They saw a girl, two dogs, silence. What they didn't see was the reason she walked them every day. The truth was waiting quietly, like a shadow behind her steps. And soon, something small, something simple, would bring that truth into the open. If you were in her place, what would you have done? Tell us in the comments. Amina walked the dogs the same way every day. Her steps were slow, steady, almost careful, as if each moment needed to be held softly. The street was lined with houses that looked almost the same, each with trimmed lawns and neat fences. But behind those fences were eyes watching her, some with curiosity, some with quiet judgment, and some with something colder. The whispers always began when she passed. She heard them sometimes, even when they were soft. Words like strange, poor, refugee, doesn't belong. People did not say them to her, but they said them loud enough for the wind to carry. And she always kept her head down, choosing silence instead of hurt. But there was one neighbor who watched differently, Mrs. Collins, an older woman who lived alone at the corner house. She watched not with anger, but with curiosity that was trying to understand. She noticed how Amina always paused near the small park bench, letting the dogs rest while she sat quietly, her hands folded in her lap. She noticed how Amina looked tired in a way that children should not look. There was something heavy behind that stillness. One evening, as Amina walked past, she saw two teenage boys near the sidewalk. They were laughing together, loud, carefree. But when they saw her, their laughter changed its shape. They looked at her like she did not belong there, like the street was theirs, and she was a guest who had stayed too long. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. The look was enough. The kind of look that says everything. Go back where you came from. Amina's chest tightened. The dogs felt it too. They leaned closer to her, as if protecting her from something unseen. She kept walking. Days passed, and the looks became more common. People who had once just stared now stared longer. Some moved their children closer when she passed by. Others closed their doors a little faster. No one asked why she was always alone. No one wondered if she needed help. People often choose the story that is easiest to believe, even when it is wrong. At school, things were not easier. Amina was quiet there too. She was used to being the girl with the different name, the different skin tone, the different past. When the teacher called her name during roll call, some students snickered softly, as if her name was something funny. She kept her eyes on her desk. She learned how to make herself small, but the dogs, they were her comfort. Max, the golden one, walked with a bounce, his joy like sunlight. Shadow walked slower, gentle and calm, like a warm night. With them, Amina could breathe. She talked to them inside her mind, telling them the things she could not say to anyone else. The truth was this: Max and Shadow did not belong to her, and Amina did not walk them just to get fresh air. She walked them because she was helping someone who could no longer help themselves. Inside the house, her dear mother lay terribly sick, a whisper of the vibrant woman she used to be. Mom used to walk the dogs, laughing, smiling, full of life. Now the dogs, Max and Shadow, waited faithfully by the door, their hearts aching for her scent. Amina walked the dogs as a silent, painful act of love for her sick mother, desperate to keep hope alive. But the neighbors didn't see devotion. They saw suspicion and quickly judged her. One cold morning, the whispers turned into cruel accusations. Surrounded by their sharp words, Amina felt broken, carrying immense love while being wrongly painted with guilt. She yearned to run away from the unfairness. Then, a gentle touch from Max and Shadow, and the memory of her mother's soft voice gave her strength. Choosing courage over conflict, Amina slowly spoke the simple, heartbreaking truth. The walks were not secrets, but necessary acts of desperate love, a love trying to survive while her family faced goodbye. When she finished, the street fell completely silent. Her simple, deep truth finally cut through the harsh judgment, leaving a heartbreaking quietness in its wake. No one had expected pain. They were prepared to fight shadows, not grief. Mrs. Collins' face softened first. Her eyes filled, not with pity, but with something deeper, regret. The teenage boys looked away, suddenly unsure. The neighbors who whispered every day now had no words at all. The truth sat quietly in the air. What would you have done if this truth was suddenly staring back at you? Tell us in the comments. The silence that followed felt heavy, as if the whole street had stopped breathing for a moment. Amina stood there holding the leashes, not knowing what would happen next. She had said the truth, the real truth, something she had carried deep inside her chest every single day. And now it was out there in the open. Mrs. Collins was the first to move. She stepped closer, slowly, gently, as if approaching something fragile. She didn't speak right away. She just placed a soft hand on Amina's shoulder. That touch was enough to say what words sometimes cannot: "I see you now." Then, something unexpected happened. The neighbors who had spent days watching her, guessing about her, whispering their own stories, began to look ashamed. Not because someone told them they were wrong, but because the truth was simple and human, and they had missed it. They had seen a girl walking dogs, but they had not seen her heart at all. The teenage boys stepped back, their faces suddenly unsure. They weren't angry anymore, just confused by the weight of the moment. They had been taught to fear difference, to assume the worst, to look at someone like Amina and make a story that was easier than asking for the real one. The group slowly parted, and Amina walked home quietly, the dogs close beside her. When she opened the door, her father was there. He looked tired, just like always. But when he saw Amina's face, he knew something had changed. She didn't explain everything. She didn't have to. He just placed a hand on her head, gentle and warm. Days passed, and the street felt different. Mrs. Collins began bringing soup to the house. Not to pry, not to question, just to offer kindness. The neighbors who once turned away began offering small smiles. Soft ones. The kind of smiles that say, "I am sorry I did not see you before." And word spread, not the whispers of before, but a new kind. A kinder kind. The street started to remember that behind every closed door, behind every quiet face, there is a story beating softly. A story that matters. Amina still walked the dogs every day. But now, she walked with her head a little higher. Max still bounced. Shadow still walked slow. And sometimes Mrs. Collins sat with her on the bench, not to ask anything, just to share the quiet. Her mother did not suddenly get better. Life did not turn into a perfect picture, but something had changed. The loneliness that once wrapped itself around Amina's heart had loosened. She was no longer unseen. She was no longer a mystery to fear. She was just a girl trying to hold love together. Something every person understands, no matter where they come from. Sometimes, the smallest truth can open the biggest doors. What part of this story stayed with you the most? Tell us in the comments. Show some love with a like and subscribe to stay inspired.